Thanks for choosing us. We are your home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. Now, this morning, member of communications team for the New Force, Shalimar Abbiusi, has secured a landmark victory at the ECOWAS Court after what many would describe as a harrowing ordeal in Ghana. The court ruled that her rearrest, detention, and subsequent deportation in December 2023 were unlawful and a violation of her fundamental rights under Article 6 of the African Charter on Human Rights and People's Rights. Well, Ms. Abbiusi was awarded $10,000 in compensation. She's our guest today as we delve into the details of her case, the impact of her deportation on her personal and professional life, and her vision for justice reform. We'll also explore her exciting new role with the African Union and how she plans to use her platform to champion human rights and governance reforms across Africa. Shalimar Abbiusi, welcome to the show.
Good morning.
Good morning. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I would like us to start from the ECOWAS Court ruling. They ruled in your favor. They awarded you compensation worth $10,000 for the wrongful action taken against you by Ghana. I'm just wondering what this victory signifies for you.
This victory is historical, and I believe it's not just a historical moment for me, but for every single person who has experienced a similar injustice and who fell victim to the hands of a flawed system and abuse of power. So I believe that it reaffirms the importance of standing up against the violation of human rights, and winning this case sends a clear message that human rights have to be respected and violations will not go unchallenged. And I also want to add that no compensation can make up for violations, human rights violations, because our liberty is not for sale.
What exact release were you seeking when you went to court? Because you made it clear just right now that compensation isn't enough.
It's not about compensation. It is more about justice and clearing my name, but also setting a precedent that human rights cannot just be violated within Africa or within the world.
We live in a digital age where digital footprints to a large extent cannot be erased. So I'm wondering, how did the news of your deportation impact on you personally and especially professionally?
It definitely had an impact on me, and personally, it was a tough time. It was very challenging to deal publicly with perceptions and misinformation and misconception. But I also have to say that it made me stronger, and I believe that it gave me the opportunity to showcase my resilience to the world. And professionally, it temporarily casted a shadow over my work. But it was also a redirection and opened new doors for me. As you said earlier, I am now appointed within the African Union as coordinator and spokesperson for different projects. So I believe that it was a positive redirection. I also recently launched my foundation, I Am Human, and I'm sure that also will be impactful.
We'll get into your role with the AU shortly, because I recall during the interview you had with my colleague Raymond Aqua, you narrated how you were denied access to your counsel, phone calls, and also essential issues that were concerning to you. You also said that you were oblivious of the charges against you. Looking back, what specific legal or institutional reforms do you believe are necessary to prevent such violations in the future?
Having access to legal representation is a basic human right, and it is unbelievable that people are being denied this fundamental human right. And I believe that there is an absolute need for stronger oversight in law enforcement, and we have to keep governments accountable. International bodies must oversee and keep governments accountable and protect human rights. And I also believe that governments should implement laws and regulations and guarantee access to legal counsel.
What was the most difficult part of your experience? Was it the initial arrest, the rearrest, or deportation itself?
I think the feeling of being powerless was one of the hardest things. And of course, being deported, being imprisoned, the whole experience was traumatic. But I just kept believing, and I kept believing and hoping that justice would do its work. And also knowing that I had people and a team fighting for me just kept me strong and hopeful.
And for you, that episode in itself, what footprint did it leave in your mind?
It wasn't a pleasant experience, and I honestly was not aware of how serious the situation was in Ghana. And the things that I have been exposed to, the people that I've seen in the cells, it was a horrible experience, but it was also eye-opening. It opened my eyes and my mind to the horrible circumstances, and people fall victim every single day at these practices and malpractices.
You've always maintained that your arrest and subsequent deportation was politically motivated because of your association with the new force. Do you still hold that sentiment?
Absolutely, because that is also what was stated in the charges in court, which they later dropped, but it was definitely politically motivated.
You were initially charged with falsifying documents to obtain a student permit, a residential permit, and those charges, we know, were dropped before your deportation. That substantive issue, how do you respond to those allegations?
Well, I'm glad you're asking the question, and I actually would like to enable the critical thinking skills of the people who are watching and listening. If I did forge documents, why were the charges dropped against me? And where is the evidence? Because there was never any evidence produced in court about these so-called forged documents. I obtained my permit through an official immigration officer. So if there were forged documents, was it one of their own officials who forged it? And I believe that the fact that the charges were dropped against me in court speak volumes.
I'm just looking right now as the whole issue and how it played out. I'm wondering, what are some of the things that you've learned from that specific experience that will stick with you throughout your career?
I've learned to never give up hope, to be strong, and also to not be afraid to speak up for what is right. So many people discouraged me when I wanted to take the case to ECOWAS Court, but I think this is...
Why? Why were they discouraging you?
Because so many people told me, why don't you just drop it? Why don't you just leave it alone? You will never win. But I think that this historical win shows us that we should never stop believing and fighting for what is right.
How long did the case take, though, in court?
I think altogether it was 7 months.
Did we have representation from Ghana in court?
Yes, Attorney General.
Oh, the AG himself.
Yeah.
I see. So apart from the compensation, I'm looking at the specific takeaways from the case in particular. The court ruled that your rights were violated. What's next?
Well, I think this is still a little bit early to say. We just had the judgment, and I believe that my lawyer, Mr. Xavier Sotu, will do the right and the needful now to take the next steps.
Will you plan on suing Ghana as a country?
Excuse me, did I plan to sue them?
Do you plan on suing Ghana as a country following this ruling?
Well, I already did.
Yeah, but then you said that the compensation wasn't enough.
I didn't say the compensation wasn't enough. I said our liberty is not for sale. So no compensation can measure up against violations of basic and fundamental human rights.
So I'm wondering, how can civil society and organizations, as well as international bodies, effectively support individuals who face political persecution and human rights abuses like you did?
I believe that society must provide legal and psychological support to victims. And I also think part of the fact that people are not being heard makes it really difficult to process these traumas. And I believe that that is why my case, who was so publicly, and me winning this case, can also be a support and an inspiration to people. And I think that the government should just make sure that victims are being heard. That is very important. When people feel like they're not being heard, it becomes very difficult to deal with such a trauma. And the international community should hold governments accountable.
I'm thinking right now, are you still affiliated to the New Force? Still active?
I am. I'm currently the international spokesperson for the New Force movement.
Interesting. So we are still actively involved in politics.
Well, it is a movement. I don't call myself a politician. I don't see it as politics. I see it as a movement and more as a humanitarian role.
Are you optimistic of your chances in the upcoming polls?
I'm sure the impact will be significant. I'm hopeful for change, and I think the people of Ghana are ready for change.
Well, congratulations on your new role with the AU. You've been appointed the electoral journalist for the African Union elections. How do you plan to leverage that position to champion human rights?
Thank you so much, first of all. And I think being a woman and a youth in such a role and getting a voice on such a big platform is already an embodiment of that advocacy.
And how long will you be occupying that position?
I don't know, but I do think this is going to be a step in the right direction, and I definitely want to develop my skills and my leadership skills further in the body of the African Union.
Now, I know that you're a human rights advocate. You're holding key roles in the AU, APSA, AGA. I'm wondering how you balance your personal advocacy with the broader objectives of the AU.
Well, as we know, AGA and APSA, they go about governance, peace, security, and the goals are pretty much aligned with my personal goals. And I also believe in advocacy, and I believe that my personal experience also gave me a very good understanding of the problematics within the African continent when it comes to peace, security, human rights, and those problematics is also what we strive and what I strive to improve and restructure.
If you could turn back the hands of time, what would you want to take away from your experience with Ghana?
I wouldn't want to change it because, as I said, it was such a crucial part of my life. It redirected me completely. It made me grow. I became so much stronger. So I wouldn't want to change anything.
Would you be coming back to Ghana anytime soon?
Well, let's see, but I definitely leave the possibility open.
But it's very likely close to the elections that you should be around, isn't that the case?
One could say that, or maybe I should just wait until the elections are over and then see the results, and I'll definitely be coming back to Ghana in due time.
Thank you for your time here. Shalimar Abbiusi, she's member of the New Force, and we've been engaging her after her victory with the ECOWAS Court. Thank you so much. Now.